Good evening, America. This is the Keep the Stamps. I'm coming here today just to talk about the state of our nation. And I'm disappointed. I'm ashamed that so many people have bled and died for this country to be where it is today. Black and white, Democrat and Republican, and all other kinds of folks, and built this country. And we got 5 million Americans displaced right now. Thousands of Americans floating dead in the streets, and people are standing up talking about stinking football games and protests and all this. We got American people dead in the streets. And that's what the news is covering? That's what the people are talking about? See, I believe that it's time for my military veterans to stand up. Folks like myself, who done bled and our friends have died, for this country to be a certain way. There are people right now at all levels of government who are taking us in the wrong direction. Yes, we're going in the wrong direction. Very wrong direction. And just like all history has shown us, that the veterans stepped forward after the wars and rebuilt the nation. After the American Revolution, the veterans rebuilt the nation. After the Civil War, Union and Confederate veterans rebuilt the nation. Most of your big churches and black institutions were built during Reconstruction, right? And we're still living off that today. Now, if the folks after the Civil War could get back together and start electing folks and moving this country forward, the folks after the World War II can come home like Medgar Evers and so many other folks in that generation were able to look beyond our differences and lead our country forward. It's time for this generation of veterans to do the same thing. Everybody who subscribes to the American way of life, this whole PipeHitters union, everybody who's in this PipeHitters union right here, and you know who you are, stand up, because the folks who are in charge now, Democrat and Republican, are tearing our dadgum country apart. They can't look above their lower level differences to the greater good of America. Folks have bled and died for this country. Look at my dad, he's still working hard today. See, I come from a long line of folks who work their ass off for this country. Bled their lives apart to work for this country. Both my grandfathers are veterans. My great-grandfather bled, and their friends died to rebuild this land. That's all we got. And if we're ever gonna have an America for our grandchildren that even resembles something of the America we have today, we're gonna have to rise above our lower level differences and make America work. Black and white, Democrat and Republican. It's time for the mighty middle to stand up and start allowing the fringes of the left and the right, the fringes of the black and the white, the fringes of the red and the blue, the fringes of our society drive the ship. It's time for the folks who believe in America, everything it can be. Yes, we got a flawed nation, and we're in a journey of forming a more perfect union. Got a long way to go. Giving up now is not gonna solve any problems. Tearing the country apart now is not gonna solve any problems. There's some people out there who want it to fail, who want this whole experiment of people coming together, you know, being indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Some folks who don't believe in that. And it's time for us to stand up and say, you know what, this is our country. And yours too. And yes, you got the right to protest, and you got the right to protest. Those differences make us stronger. But respect, honor, love, decency, all those things matter as well. So now I'm calling on all my fellow veterans out there who've come home to this America. This America. See, I love this place I'm in right now. I'm in Learned, Mississippi, population 51. right at mile marker 71 on the Natchez Trace. See, long before Native Americans were here, black folks were here on this same land. Native Americans came, we mingled with them. We have been coming back and forth from Africa for years, hundreds and thousands of years before Christopher Columbus ever even got here. My very kinfolks were enslaved on the land that I own today. I own every blade of grass. My family has been here for a long time. See, the red brothers of ours got sent to the Trail of Tears right there. That road right there is the Natchez Trace. The darker skinned ones of our family got enslaved right on this same land that you're making this video from. And we went through the whole American experiment. And now it's not time for kneeling down, it's time for standing up. Standing up and believing in the promise of America and holding it true to its ideals and being the moral defibrillators of our time. That's what time it is right now. It's not time for tearing apart. It's time for rebuilding. We got 5 million Americans displaced and thousands of Americans dead floating in the streets right now. It's not time to be talking about symbolic protests. It's talking about building this country up. While the merits of the protests are valid, and I understand it, but now it's time to put your hand to the plow. We're not gonna Snapchat, post, or tweet our way through this situation. It's time to work. It's time to make sure we're making sound decisions and moving our city, state, and nation forward. Because as you know, and I've said before, every level of government in this country is built for corruption. And it will be corrupted as long as there are men and women with corrupted hearts and minds in our cities, in our state, in our nation. There will always be corruption there as long as corrupted minds are there. So I need our military veterans to stand up, run for office, kick some of these suckers out of office, get into business. There's some business folks out there with some corrupt hearts and minds, and our military veterans have what it takes because you've done it before. You've been able to transcend race, party, creed, culture, and stand up for this nation that you believe in. It's time for you to do it again, to drag this country back to its promises and its potential. It's time to move forward, veterans. Get involved in politics, get involved in business. And now we can scour the infection that permeates America. We can scour it, cleanse it, band-aid it, and move forward. This is to keep the stamps, and who's ever with this and believes in this message, share it, snap this, chat this, poke this, tweet this. It's not time for idle chatter. It's how will you help rebuild this nation? That's what we're here for. How will you help solidify this nation so that our children and grandchildren can have something to build off of? I love you. God loves you. Be blessed.